A bronze arm is reaching up out of the sand, 200 feet below the surface. Attached to it, an entire shipwreck, sealed shut for 2,000 years, packed with more than 50 statues, faces with no names, bodies with no explanation. For over a century, everyone assumed they knew what this was. In 2025, they found out they were wrong. This wasn't a shipment. It was a robbery. You've probably heard of this wreck before. It's famous for something else entirely. A strange bronze device pulled from this same site that turned out to be an ancient astronomical computer. That's a real story. It's just not this one. Here's what you're actually about to find out. What those statues really were, where they were taken from, and why a 2025 study concluded they weren't cargo at all. They were plunder, stripped from a Greek community that never agreed to give them up. Picture a Greek city sometime in the 1st century BC, a city with a gymnasium at its center. Not a gym in the modern sense. In the Greek world, a gymnasium was where young citizens trained, studied, and were shaped into the next generation of the community. And it was filled with statues. Not decoration, civic identity carved in bronze and marble. Honored citizens, athletes, teachers, the faces a city chose to remember itself by. Strip a city of those statues, and you're not stealing furniture. You're stealing the version of itself it wanted to leave behind. For decades, the accepted story of this shipwreck was simple, and honestly, a little boring. A wealthy Roman collector, somewhere around 60 BC, commissions or purchases a large shipment of Greek statuary, bronze figures, marble figures, luxury goods, to decorate a villa or a public building back in Italy. The ship set sail from the Greek world, loaded with art, destined for someone rich enough to afford it. That was the consensus. Statues as merchandise. Nothing more sinister than a very expensive shopping trip. For over 100 years since the wreck's discovery, that's the story nearly every scholar told. Then, in 2025, archaeologist Brian Martins of the University of St. Andrews did something nobody had done before. He examined the entire statue collection as one connected group, rather than piece by piece. And the pattern that emerged didn't look like a shopping list. Several of the statues showed physical wear consistent with having already been mounted and displayed somewhere. Worn bases, evidence of prior installation, before ever being loaded onto this ship. These weren't fresh commissions, carved to order for a Roman buyer. They had already stood somewhere, already meant something to someone, before they ended up in a cargo hold. Martin's study went further. Looking at the size, material, and subject matter of the collection as a whole, the pattern pointed toward one specific kind of source, a gymnasium, somewhere in the Cyclades, the island chain scattered across the Aegean. Not a Roman workshop, not a marketplace, a real civic institution, stripped of the statues that gave it meaning. And normal commercial buyers didn't operate this way. Negotiating for someone's civic monuments piece by piece isn't how legitimate art dealing worked in the ancient world. The study's conclusion was blunt. These statues were most likely obtained through plunder or extortion. Taken, not bought. Picture the moment it actually happened. Soldiers, or agents acting on behalf of a powerful Roman patron, moving through a Greek gymnasium, pulling honored statues off their pedestals one by one, while the community that built them could do nothing but watch. This wasn't an isolated event. The 1st century BC was a brutal period for Greece under Roman expansion. Cities sacked, temples stripped, entire towns forced to hand over their treasures to Roman generals and governors, who saw Greek art as trophies of conquest. According to the study, this ship's ultimate destination wasn't just any villa. The statues were suited for display in a lavish public building in Rome itself, a monument to victory, built from someone else's stolen memory. It never got there. While the statue mystery unfolded, a completely separate excavation was rewriting what we know about the ship itself. Between 2021 and 2025, the Swiss School of Archaeology in Greece ran a sustained excavation campaign at the wreck site. In 2024, divers found something fragile and extraordinary. 3 wooden hull planks, still connected to their original internal frame, undisturbed for 2,000 years. It took until 2025 to safely extract them. The wood, elm and oak. The construction, shell first, the outer hull built before the internal frame, a technique common across the Mediterranean between the 4th and 1st centuries BC. And the timber itself dated back to roughly 235 BC, nearly 2 centuries before the ship ever sank. This wasn't some hastily built transport vessel. It was a serious ship, carrying a serious, illegitimate cargo. Now, is the plunder theory settled fact? Not entirely. Not yet. Martin's 2025 study is a reinterpretation, not a unanimous verdict. The older commercial shipment theory held for decades because it fit the evidence available at the time. And some of that evidence, general Roman appetite for Greek luxury goods, genuinely was real. Roman elites really did buy and commission Greek art constantly. What's different now is the specificity. Wear patterns suggesting prior display. A size and subject pattern matching a single type of civic space. And a total collection that looks less like a catalog and more like a location, emptied all at once. It's the strongest case yet that this was theft, not trade. But strongest case yet and proven beyond doubt aren't the same thing. And honestly, that's how good archaeology usually works. Slowly, and never quite finished. Here's what we can say with real confidence. Sometime around 60 BC, a ship loaded with more than 50 statues, most of them likely stripped from a single Greek gymnasium through plunder or extortion, set sail toward a monument of Roman conquest, built to display someone else's stolen civic pride. It never arrived. A storm, a navigational failure, something lost to history. The ship went down off a tiny island, and everything on board sank with it. For over 2,000 years, that stolen identity sat on the seafloor, belonging to no one. Until 1900, when it resurfaced not in a Roman villa, but back in Greece. The statues never reached Rome. In a strange, accidental way, the sea returned them home. So this wreck's real legacy isn't the Antikythera mechanism everyone talks about. It's a monument to something much darker. An entire community stripped of the statues that told the world who they were. I'll be straight with you. I don't think the commercial shipment story survived this long by accident. It's simply easier to look at one of archaeology's most famous wrecks and call it a shopping trip than to call it a crime scene. The evidence is pointing hard toward theft, and I think that's where the truth actually sits. Does this settle it for you? Or does strongest theory yet still feel like speculation dressed up as certainty? Tell me where you land in the comments. If you want more stories like this one, hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel more than you'd think.